They all got outsmarted by Holly Bobo. Most of all, this defendant. He got outsmarted by her, and he got outsmarted by his co-defendants, because they weren't all supposed to fold. They weren't all supposed to start talking. Nobody does that to Zach Adams.
Oh my. In our spotlight today, we're talking about the case of nursing student Holly Bobo and the man who was convicted of killing her, fighting this week to get a brand new trial. So Zachary Adams was found guilty of murdering Bobo in 2017, but one of his co-defendants who testified against him, a guy named Jason Autry, has recanted, and Adams wants a new trial. Now, Bobo was missing for 3 years until her remains were found in rural Tennessee. Adams' post-conviction relief hearing that's going on right now this week, it'll continue in a short while this morning, had his brother, Dylan Adams, taking the stand yesterday. And he said that he and his brother, Zachary, had nothing to do with Holly Bobo's murder.
Did you have any part in the abduction, raping, or killing Miss Bobo?
No, sir.
Were you present when anything took place?
No, sir. I was nowhere around.
Where were you?
I was in town.
Okay.
Me and my brother was in town. We was getting gas and going somewhere.
And the defense showed time-stamped video showing the brothers in their truck at the time of Bobo's murder. So is this enough for Zach Adams to get a new trial? Let's bring in our power panel. So happy to have with me on the program this morning crime scene investigator Cheryl McCollum and criminal defense and civil rights attorney Casey Early. Good morning to you both. Cheryl, let me start with you. We got all these guys, all these defendants. How do you figure out who is lying? What a mess this is. Tell us, please, how you might sort through this if you were working this case.
Well, the first thing you've got to do is go back and look at what you had in the beginning. What did we have the first trial? We've got Zach, he owned a white truck. We've got Zach connected to his brother Dylan, who confessed. We've got Zach connected to Jason Autry, who confessed and gave detailed information to law enforcement. We have an ex-girlfriend that said Zach threatened her and said, I will tie you up like I did Holly Bobo. You've got his own brother saying, hey, he threatened me and said he'd put me in a hole. I mean, you've got these things that there's a receipt with Holly Bobo's name on it connected to his other friend right in front of his house. So you've got facts, you've got evidence that would conclude these people had something to do with her murder because they said they did.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And so you sound more inclined, Cheryl, to trust what they said at the outset, not what they're saying here and now. Am I understanding right?
There's an old rule. They were lying then or they're lying now. You've got to figure out which one's the lie.
Right.
Right?
Right.
They both can't be true.
You're absolutely right, Cheryl. Yeah, this is a big pants on fire situation, and I know we all here feel so bad for Holly Bobo's family to think that justice could possibly be undone here. Casey, tell me, as a defense attorney, we have this defense team speaking out. I have a clip I'd like to play for you. They're adamant that Mr. Adams was not part of this and that it was unjust, or unjust, for him to be sent to prison. Let's take a listen.
This is a legal nightmare. Innocent men and Mr. Adams was found guilty in this court. This is the nightmare our system tries to prevent. Lawyers failed Mr. Adams. His defense, the prosecution, and at times, the court.
Casey, interested to hear how you see this case potentially playing out. This defense team, very confident that Zachary Adams was not part of this. We have the video of him and his brother in this truck someplace else at the time that Holly Bobo was killed. Do you see the court potentially vacating Mr. Adams' conviction?
There's a possibility, and here's why. For post-conviction relief, you kind of hear the defense talking possible ineffective assistance of counsel, and then you have this newly discovered evidence in the form of testimony being recanted. And the defense already said, even before the post-conviction relief motion was filed, that the witness in this case had already sold his soul to the prosecution so that he can get a lighter sentence. But the question then becomes, has there been any communication after the guilty verdict between Zach Adams, John Adams, and the third witness in this case, Mr. Jason Autry? So if there was some form of communication while they were in custody, then maybe this recanted story, although it was told to the forensic neuropsychologist, maybe it was fabricated, maybe it was not perjury. But if there was no communication, if there was no conspiracy, then you're dealing with a case that had circumstantial evidence and really no direct evidence, no DNA. There were no eyewitness testimony that they were actually there. You have a bunch of confessions, and then you have possible perjury committed by Mr. Autry. So I do believe that there is enough, and I'm always confident that with zealous advocacy, we can keep truly innocent people out of jail. Is it an inconvenience to the prosecution? Absolutely. But justice must be served, and the right person who committed the crime should be behind bars.
Casey, you're exactly right. Cheryl, let me go to you on something that raised a lot of eyebrows with this hearing going on this week. The testimony of a retired U.S. Marshal who investigated Holly Bobo's murder case said that he had another suspect in mind at the time who was a convicted sex offender known to be in the area at the time the crime occurred. We have a clip of some of what he testified to. Let's take a listen.
In the world that you're functioning in, it's your belief that Terry Britt, let's just say it. Let's just bring it out. Terry Britt put that bullet in the back of her head. Is that your testimony? That's what you're gonna tell this judge?
I believe.
Answer my question.
Yes.
Your Honor, the witness is allowed.
Give him an opportunity to answer. I do believe that.
That Terry Britt put a bullet in the back of her head.
Yes.
Okay, so this retired U.S. Marshal said he interviewed this guy named Terry Britt about Holly Bobo's murder, and he said he'd plead to it. Britt was never arrested, never charged. Cheryl, what are your thoughts on that?
Again, we don't have the evidence. There's not DNA. There's not a murder weapon. Nothing has been recovered that we could tie him to it physically. You've got other people that also admitted to being involved. You've got one that admitted it and went to prison. You had another that made a deal and went to prison for it. You had a third person that within 5 months committed suicide. Is this case circumstantial? Yes. But some of the things that are not going to change is either accurate testimony or perjury, a white truck, not having a decent alibi that they get rid of in court. They're talking now about having video of them being in a truck. You're telling me that when your freedom was on the line, you didn't remember being at that store and being on video then? You're only now coming up with that? That's something you would have to look at. As far as, has Jason Autry and Dylan Adams and Zach Adams had any communication? You have to go to Department of Corrections. Did they have any communication, even third party? We know Zach has threatened his own brother and a girlfriend, an ex-girlfriend. Has he threatened them? Has he threatened Jason? Why would somebody who's an inmate in prison as a snitch now try to flip it and change it? Why now? These are things we have to have answered.
You're so right. You know, listening to you, Cheryl, I'm going, yeah, wait a minute. You know, because it's easy for, I think, the headline to pop up, right, in Tennessee, and then it goes all over the country, because we all remember when Holly Bobo was killed and went missing, and it was huge in the true crime community. And then you hear Jason Autry saying, oh, you know, I'm going to recant my testimony that was damning, and everybody, oh, does that mean it's all coming undone? But sure, when you say, but wait a minute, let's kind of, you know, steady the ship here. Let's work through this. You know, you think, okay, so yeah, you know, it wasn't just Autry's testimony alone that got Mr. Adams convicted in the first place. Casey, how does that get legally sorted out by the court, where the judge is saying, okay, even if we remove this testimony, does that mean we send it all back for a new trial?
Yeah, and post-conviction relief is not a do-over. You have to point to what the court did that was improper, what evidence was admitted that should not have been admitted, and again, was there ineffective assistance of counsel? Was there an objection that was raised that was overruled that should have been sustained? So these are all of the factors that the court have to consider. So it's not just this one witness recanting their story or admitting that they committed perjury, lying under oath, which in Florida is a third-degree felony, which I believe sidebar should be a higher penalty, especially when someone's freedom is on the line. But it's a lot of factors that the court must consider, and they have to weigh that against the prosecution. If this motion is granted, then the prosecution has to try this case all over again. So as my colleague stated, it's not just the recanted story, it's all the other evidence and whether there was communication. The Department of Corrections have video surveillance. Were they in the same pod? Did they conspire? So we don't know, but that alone, the recantation of his testimony, is not sufficient.
You all have given us such great insight. I've loved this discussion. We'll keep it going. Casey, you're able to come with us, and we thank you for that. Cheryl McCollum, you've got to go to work. You've got criminals to catch. And yeah, like Jay Billis says, got to go to work. And thank you for your service and the great insight that you've given us this morning on the program. We'll see you soon, Cheryl.